So you want to play a sorcerer, but you're really not sure what spells to pick? Well, you're in luck. Because behind today's secret door, best sorcerer spells from levels 1 through 5. So behind today's secret door, best sorcerer spells from levels 1 through 5. This is Secret Door, a channel devoted to in-depth discussion about Dungeons and Dragons, and my name is Matt Morich. Alright, I have started a Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the channel, your help would be greatly appreciated and much needed. And many thanks to Marcelo, Doug, and Jamie for your support. The link will be in the pinned comment and in the description. Alright, so this video is going to be exactly what it sounds like, a list of the best sorcerer spells from levels 1 through 5. So I'm going to use the following format and criteria. So in terms of format, I'm going to give you the top 3 sorcerer spells from levels 1 through 5. And in addition, I will note what the best sorcery subclass spell is at that particular level. Other considerations here are that I'm going to generally favor combat over anything else. But if the utility spell is just way better at utility than it is at combat, that will obviously play a part. And this isn't to demean utility at all. Any of you who know this channel know how much I value utility. It's just that whenever you're dealing with a class like this, you have to kind of lean towards if the spell is going to be useful in combat. But for the subclass spells, one of the other criteria is if that spell is a good spell or a great spell that is not available on your list otherwise, that obviously is going to add extra value to that particular spell. And we should note here that the Wild Magic Sorcerer does not get an expanded spell list, so they will not appear at all on this list. And one final note about the criteria here is that I'm not accounting for any kind of meta magic with these spells. So there may be particular spells that respond particularly well to a particular meta magic. And that's great. And that's really a lot of the fun of playing a sorcerer. But those kind of permutations can go on and on and on. And for the sake of simplicity, I'm just rating these based on the strength of the spell alone. So if this particular spell is just amazing if you use Quicken, and this one's just great if you use Twinned, that's great, and I'm sure you're right, but I can't account. There's no knowing if you're going to take Twinned or that particular meta magic, whatever it may be, that the spell might be interacting with. There's no way for me to know what you are going to be selecting there, so I'm just judging these based on the strength of these spells. So the purpose of something like this, of course, we all love lists and, talking about it and all that. I don't think this is going to be a particularly hotly debated list, but I'm sure there will be some feelings one way or the other about this spell or that. The value of it really is going to be, if you're a new player in particular, and you are wanting to play a spellcaster like a full caster like a sorcerer, it can be daunting. Spells can be very daunting. And just having a shortcut list of what are the best spells for this class from levels 1 through 5 could be useful. And so one other final point I'd like to make about a list like this. My purpose in doing it, especially for preparing for a beginner or maybe somebody that isn't necessarily, say, an optimizer but would like to be a bit more optimal, this list, basically, if you have the spells on this list and you're a full caster, you're a sorcerer, you're going to be pretty close to optimal. If you are a full caster, this is the most important thing you're going to be doing, and spell selection is key. So if you have most of the spells on this list, you're going to be pretty close to optimal just from that alone. So it's a pretty nice shortcut, really, to playing an optimal character. If you're an experienced player, you probably are going to agree with a lot of what I'm saying here. You might not. But I might give you something to think about in terms of, I just didn't even look up that spell. That happens all the time. And you might find that there's a spell here that you just didn't consider before. In this latter case, I don't think that's going to happen too much. You guys are all pretty smart. So I think it's just going to be more of an exercise in fun and thought. And with a particular usefulness to newer players who are new to the game or new to spellcasting in particular. All right, here at level 1 in the 3rd position, here I have kind of like a cheat because these two spells are just virtually identical except for very minor differences. It's Burning Hands and Thunderwave. I'm not particularly a great fan of these spells, but if you really wanted an AoE damage spell at level 1 or for your level 1 slot, these are the ones to get. I don't like them in particular because I don't like full casters just jumping into getting close to the enemy. I would rather be in the very back and do my business from back there. Thank you. So I don't like these for full casters, normally speaking, but from time to time, of course, they can make a very big difference at low levels. And on this list, because people like to play blasters as sorcerers pretty commonly, I think it's important to note them on the list whenever possible. So here at the number 2 spot, I'm putting this here. It could easily be number 1 and number 1 could be number 2, or they could just simply both be tied for number 1. So at number 2, I'm listing Shield, but again, if you want to look at it as number 1A or B or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's obviously a great spell. Shield is a fantastic spell, a premier spell. It will be useful for you your entire career, and as you go on in your career, it's going to become more and more important. And if we were in the 2014 rule set, I could very easily for the Sorcerer list this as number 1. But because of the changes in number 1, it's going to retain its authority and power throughout your entire career as well. And that spell at number 1 is Sleep. Sleep is a great spell. It is not the same as it used to be, where it would just nuke an encounter early on and then slowly become almost useless by, say, level 4 or 5. I would say level 5 for sure. It's seen the last of its days. That's not the case anymore. Now it's a saving throw spell. It's a saving throw spell with a very tiny area of effect, but it is a save that will put out that opponent, and that means that it's going to have some usefulness from a level 1 spell slot to be able to just kind of hit any enemy that could be vulnerable to sleep. It's really, really powerful. And in general, I favor something like that, an active thing that I can do to the enemy, over a circumstantial defensive spell like Shield, albeit it's one of the best circumstantial defensive spells you could ever get in the game. And for the level 1 subclass spell, that goes to Draconic with Command. Now, they also get Chromatic Orb, but Chromatic Orb is already on the Sorcerer spell list. So with that slight equivocation, I'm going to give it to Command because Command is not on the spell list for the Sorcerer and is a pretty decent spell. And it's just flexible enough that it can be useful in combat and it can be useful out of combat. I'm not trying to ooh and ah all over Command. Like I said, it's a decent spell. It's a good to pretty good spell. So here at level 2, I'm already breaking the rule here because level 2 has a famous glut of spells for the Wizard, even for the Warlock, and it is true also for the Sorcerer. So there's going to be a couple more on this list. I'm going to list them as honorable mentions, but they could easily be in the number 3 spot. So those 2 honorable mentions, these are both damage spells, and I think it's important to note damage for the reasons I already stated earlier. And those are Shatter. Shatter is actually the best area of effect damage spell available at this level, and the Sorcerer gets it. So it's certainly one, if you are a blaster, this definitely is in the top 3. The other is Flaming Sphere, and that serves a very different kind of purpose, even though a blaster might very much want to take it. It serves a bit of control in the sense of it is going to dictate a lot of where the enemy at least doesn't want to be. It's also a persistent effect, and that has other effects where if you have other push effects that can push it back towards the sphere or into the sphere, then you have more damage coming. And so it's a persistent damage over time. It's a nice spell. So Shatter and Flaming Sphere, honorable mentions here, and they go up the list if you are a dedicated blaster sorcerer. In the actual number 3 spot, I have a tie between Suggestion, one of my all-time favorite spells in the game, and Misty Step, which is one of the most useful get-out-of-jail-free cards in the game as well. They're both so useful in their own way. You definitely want you definitely want both of them. You want every spell that's going to be on this list from here out. So you want Suggestion and you want Misty Step. Misty Step, not only is it a great get out of jail free card, it's great for exploration in some cases, or just getting into the hard to get to places, that kind of thing. There's an enormous amount of uses for Misty Step. And Suggestion, I think, goes without saying just how incredibly useful Suggestion can be. At number 2, I have Invisibility. Invisibility may be one of the kings of all utility spells. It solves so many problems. If you want to cast it with an upcast, it of course has an even more profound effect because you're suddenly looking at being able to not just turn one person invisible, but multiple people invisible. That helps a party be able to make plans to get into places that are difficult to get into. It kind of makes them cake in a lot of cases. So Invisibility, has to be number 2. But at number 1 is a control spell that will last and be able to save you from, in almost any given encounter from now till the end of your career. You can always count on good old Web. There are going to be other spells that are going to be better than Web as you progress in levels, to be sure. But if you're out of those slots, you can always go back to that second level measly little spell slot, or maybe you only have enough sorcery points to buy a second level spell slot and you're otherwise out of spell slots. Being able to spend it on something like Web that can actually shut down or has the potential to shut down an encounter, you can't do any better than Web. Web is one of those spells that if I see it on another spell list for another character, I'm crazy excited, and that the power level of that character goes, let's say I had it like here, it goes up like that much simply because Web is on their list. It's a great spell. And for the best subclass spell at this level, at second level, it's again going to be it's not a tie. We're giving it directly to the Clockwork Sorcerer with Aid. Aid is just a fantastic spell. It serves a variety of different purposes, but the ability to be able to pick up 3 down comrades with 1 second level spell slot is crazy. But of course, it has the ability to just simply increase everybody's overall hit points. You can do that. So you can use it before a combat just simply to buff 3 characters, and you can use it, of course, as a pickup spell as well. So just a very flexible, great spell. The honorable mention here, and it's worth noting, is the Aberrant Mind for Detect Thoughts. Detect Thoughts is just an unbelievably great spell in terms of interrogation and that type of thing. Granted, it is only picking up surface thoughts, but if you have cast it and you're able to simply just bring up the subject that you want to talk about or want to know about, that's going to come up to their surface thought, and there you go, you've got it. So Detect Thoughts it's kind of like think of it as the invisibility of interrogation. It is the problem solver. And at level 3, this one's going to be really obvious, I think. At number 3, we have Counterspell. Now, Counterspell suffers from being overhyped, overvalued, whatever you want to call it. Its value, it's an enormously powerful spell, don't get me wrong, but it's entirely useless if you're not facing casters on a regular basis. However, it is so valuable when you are facing casters that you're going to feel like an idiot if you don't have it. So it's that kind of a spell. You should absolutely take it. But I just find that people think that it's this, you're always using Counterspell and all. You might be in a particular campaign. You might, but you might not even use it for 3 sessions in other campaigns. But all that being said, a very powerful spell, a great spell, but it is a defensive and circumstantial spell. And at number 2 on the list, I have Fireball. Now, you could easily argue that Counterspell is going to be more valuable than Fireball. Yes, but like I said before, it's going to be circumstantial. If you're in that kind of a circumstance, go ahead and swap it up 1 spot. If you're not, it belongs where it is. You need to take it, but it belongs where it is. Fireball, on the other hand, is going to be useful on almost any given encounter. And it's an overclocked spell, meaning it's doing far more damage and with a significant area of effect at this level than it normally should. And that's because it's a legacy spell and they love it, etc., etc., etc. Fireball's big boom effect lasts for the level that you could first get it at 5th level, till maybe like 6th, 7th, 8th level. It's still going to have like that kind of an impact. Then it starts going down, but just because everybody's defenses and hit points are getting better doesn't mean that Fireball still isn't doing what it's always been doing. It's just not having the impact in terms of the ratio of damage to the hit point totals of the creatures. And at the number 1 position, not a big shock here, is of course the great and powerful Hypnotic Pattern. Now, Hypnotic Pattern has some flaws to it. It relies on the charmed condition, so if the enemy is immune to the charmed condition, then it's useless. It is also one of those things where people don't really pay attention to this, but one of the problems with sleep is true of Hypnotic Pattern in that unaffected enemies can shake awake, or in this case, shake out of the stupor, people that are affected by Hypnotic Pattern, which means that it can be easily erased. Now, I think if I'm DMing, Hypnotic Pattern is a bit more vulnerable to this than sleep, because if you see somebody just fall in combat, I'm going to feel like I'm metagaming as the DM to have somebody shake them awake, because as far as I know, we're in combat and you just killed this person. But if they're just standing there and a big bright strobe light just went off and they're just standing there drooling down their chin, it's kind of obvious what's going on. So Hypnotic Pattern is a bit more vulnerable to that, in my opinion. But that being said, I don't think a lot of DMs do this. But it is worth noting that the fly in the ointment for Hypnotic Pattern is the charmed condition. If you are immune to charmed, it does nothing. But that being said, one of the best control spells in the game. And for the 3rd level sorcery spells, I'm going to include yet another honorable mention here. This one was very difficult to pick, this one or the honorable mention. You could go either way. I'm going to give it to Draconic with Fly. Now, Fly does appear on your spell list, but it's Fly. It's it's one of the best utility spells in the game. It solves problems in the way that invisibility can solve problems. If you can do both of those things at once, you can solve almost anything in D&D in terms of exploration and utility. It's an amazing combination. The ability to be just either one, invisible or fly, it's fantastic. So for that reason, I have to put it here. But the honorable mention goes to the Aberrant Mind with Hunger of Hadar, which does not appear on the Sorcerer spell list. The problem is that Hunger of Hadar, it's a good spell. It's not a great spell, but it's a good spell. It is one of those spells, it should be noted, that if you did have Hypnotic Pattern and you were dealing with an opponent that was immune to Charmed, you could always go to Hunger of Hadar and work from there. You would cast it in the same kind of circumstance that you would cast Hypnotic Pattern, generally speaking. It's a good spell. It's just not instant, bingo, we're done here, like Hypnotic Pattern is. Just as a point of comparison, if I were to rate Hypnotic Pattern as, say, like a 9.5 out of 10, I would say that Hunger of Hadar is probably like a 7.9, an 8 to an 8.1, something like that. It has virtues going for it, to be sure. And in the right party, it could even be a little bit more effective than that. So it's a good spell, but it's not great, but it also is not on the list. So there it is in the honorable mention at level 3. All right, level 4. And at the number 3 spot, we have a good blasting spell in Vitriolic Sphere. Vitriolic Sphere could replace Fireball for you. Vitriolic Sphere does, on average, about 37 points of damage, but on a failed save. But it is doing that in a staggered fashion. So it has 10d4 of impact, then 5d4 at the end of the opponent's next turn. So there is that delay. But they are doing 10d4 right up front, which is 25 points on average for a failed save. Fireball is going to be doing 28 on average for a failed save. So it does slightly better up front, but you're also picking up 12 more potential points at the back end from Vitriolic Sphere. If you were to have cast Fireball with that same slot, it would be doing 31.5 on a failed save. So it's straight up doing 6 points better, albeit staggered in time, over Fireball upcast at this level. It also has the advantage that it's acid and not fire. Fire is one of the more resisted damage types or immune damage types in the game. It's just one of those spells. You don't hear people talk about it very much. It's a solid spell. If you want to be doing blasting damage, it's a great spell. And at number 2, we have Dimension Door. Dimension Door is one of the king of utility spells. This is Misty Step on steroids. So you're able to teleport 500 feet. So this actually is not only just a get out of jail free card, it's also the ultimate exploration card in terms of being able to get to whatever point you feel you need to get to. Dimension Door is just one of those spells that you're so glad you have it. And it'll be useful from the time you get it till the end of your career. And at the number 1 position, we have Polymorph. Polymorph is one of these spells that can turn an encounter by itself. It doesn't do that forever. It's on the clock 3 levels, 4 levels. So if you get this at level 7, this is still going to win encounters for you from level 7, 8, 9, maybe 10. But not only is it immensely powerful, it's just a fun spell, a classic spell. Polymorph is great, and you're always glad to have it. But it is sort of on the clock. So get your fun out of it while you can. And for the subclass spell, again, it's a draconic spell. Arcane Eye. Now, Arcane Eye is on your list, but it's an amazing spell. Arcane Eye is just one of these auto scout, auto know stuff kind of spells. It's kind of like a mix of, if you combine Find Familiar scouting with scrying and mushed them together, you get Arcane Eye in a weird way. It's a very useful, powerful spell. Just, if knowledge is power, you're really powerful if you have Arcane Eye. And at level 5, I have Wall of Stone. Now, Wall of Stone gets easily overshadowed by Wall of Force, and you would definitely take Wall of Force, but you can't because it's not on your list. But Wall of Stone is a spell that will still serve. It's not as good as Wall of Force. Wall of Force is a premier control spell in Dungeons and Dragons, but Wall of Stone is one of those spells that's good enough. If it were Wall of Force, we would have it here at number 1, but it's Wall of Stone, so it's at number 3. An honorable mention here at this point could be Animate Objects. It effectively serves as sort of a summon spell with multiple objects. So that can serve some really nice possible tactical purposes. I also just love the effect of it. I think it's a lot of fun. So Animate Objects is definitely one to think about. But at number 2, we have Synaptic Static, which is one of the better blast spells in the game in that it's a blast spell that does fireball damage that you were getting at level 5, your character level 5, here at character level 9, which isn't great, but it has a really great debuff to it. So it does 2 things at once, and for that reason, I have it at number 2. And at number 1 is a spell that kind of has it all. It can do control, it can do damage, and it's fun. It's got visual style, kind of like what I was talking about with Animate Objects. But this spell is, from AD&D days, it's kind of like 4 or 5 spells in one. It's Big B's Hand. I forget off the top of my head how many Big B's Hand spells there were in AD&D. There may have only been 3, but I think there were 4. But it's all of those now in under one spell, and you can change them up in what they do from round to round. And it's a great, great spell. And again, because it can do damage and because it can do control and because it has such a great visual flair to it, that's just fun. And the name of the game is fun. And if you can have fun and be powerful at the same time, well, that's got to be a number 1 spell. That being said, if Wall of Force was here on your list, it would be at number 1. Which brings us to the sorcery subclass spell. The Clockwork gets it because they get Wall of Force. Wall of Force is simply just a shutdown spell that is the frustration of dungeon masters everywhere. It's just an incredibly, incredibly, incredibly powerful spell. It's the most surefire I win button that you can push in D&D. So in terms of the subclasses, the Draconic came out very, very nicely. So did, of course, Clockwork. Aberrant Mind didn't win outright any one particular spot, but it has consistently really great spells throughout. So don't think that Aberrant Mind is bad. It's not. It's just on head-to-head matchups, it lost in every case. But it's consistently got spells that you like at those levels. All right, well, that's the list. I hope it's useful to you folks. It was kind of fun doing this. Sorcerers are an awful lot of fun. I wanted to think about doing this with a way of trying to account for meta magic, but that just quickly became like an endless myriad of problems. So I just decided to just rate the spells as they are. All right. Well, that's all I've got. If you enjoyed the video, please like, please share, please subscribe. And if you're stuck and you don't know where to go, you can always search for a secret door. Until next time, I cast Bless on all of you.